You've spent too much of your life performing for other people's approval. Every move, every post, every word, filtered through the question, what will they think of me? That question has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. This audiobook is about freedom. The kind that comes when you stop living for applause and start living for purpose. You don't need their validation. You don't need their permission. You just need to reclaim your mind, detach from their opinions, and walk your own path. Untouchable. This is the art of not caring what they think. Chapter 1. The prison of approval. You don't need bars to live in a prison. All it takes is the fear of what people think. Most people aren't free. They're just well-behaved captives. They move carefully, speak softly, post strategically, not because that's who they are, but because they're terrified of judgment. You see it everywhere. People changing their opinions to match the crowd. People hiding their truth to avoid conflict. People shaping their image to fit whatever earns them the most applause. That it's the prison of approval. And the worst part, you built the walls yourself. When you live for applause, you die when it's silent. That's the truth most people never face. You think you're making choices, but really, you're performing. You think you're expressing yourself, but really, you're adjusting yourself. Every move filtered through the question, what will they think? You know that question. It stops you before you start. It kills your confidence before it's born. It turns bold ideas into quiet regrets. But that's the cost of caring too much. It's not harmless. It's paralyzing. You've been programmed since childhood to seek approval. Parents rewarded you when you acted right. Teachers praised you when you stayed in line. Society applauded you when you looked the part. They trained you to equate validation with value. They made you believe being liked was the goal. But that belief is a trap, and you've been caught in it for years. Here's the hard truth. You don't need to be liked. You need to be real. You need to be consistent. You need to be you, without filters, without masks, without fear. Because every time you bend for approval, you break a little more inside. Every time you chase validation, you lose self-respect. Every time you silence your truth, you strengthen your cage. You say you want freedom, but freedom and approval don't live in the same house. That if you want freedom, you have to disappoint people. You have to risk being misunderstood. You have to be okay with silence after you speak your truth. That's the price. And most people won't pay it. They'll stay in the prison, pretending they're free, while obeying invisible rules that keep them small. You see it in their eyes, always watching, always comparing, always needing to be seen as enough. But approval is a moving target. The moment you hit it, it shifts again. You'll never satisfy it. You'll never catch it. And that's why people stay trapped forever. When you live for applause, you die when it's silent. You have a choice. You can keep living for them, or start living for yourself. That means your decisions can no longer depend on how they'll be received. It means you stop editing yourself to fit their expectations. It means you start trusting your instincts again, the ones you buried under fear. Here's the truth. People's opinions are temporary. They change with mood, with time, with convenience. But your decisions? They shape your life. Stop trading your peace for their approval. Stop letting their noise rewrite your path. You don't need their permission to be who you are. You never did. Let me make this clear. Freedom is not loud. It's quiet. It's calm. It's knowing that you're walking your path, even if no one claps. The loudest person in the room is usually the most insecure. The person who truly doesn't care. They move differently. They speak with conviction. They act without waiting for applause. That's power. And you can feel it when someone has it. They don't explain. They don't defend. They don't seek validation because they already validated themselves. You want that energy? Then you have to earn it. You have to rebuild your confidence from within. Start with this simple truth. Most people don't know what they want. They're confused, they're insecure, they're trying to figure themselves out. while judging you. So why are you letting them decide your worth? When you understand that, something shifts. You stop personalizing their opinions. You start seeing through the illusion. You realize their judgment says more about them than it ever will about you. And that's the key: detachment. You don't have to react to every opinion. You don't have to defend yourself against every critique. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to stay grounded in truth. That's how you walk free. Think about the moments you hesitated because of judgment, the time you wanted to speak but stayed quiet, the time you had an idea but waited for someone's approval. Now realize this. Those were moments of self-betrayal. You didn't lose time. You lost trust in yourself. When you betray yourself to keep others comfortable, you destroy your inner confidence. And once it's gone, you'll keep looking for it in their approval, a cycle that never ends. But today, you break that cycle. Today, you take your power back. You remind yourself, when I live for applause, I die when it's silent. You repeat it until it becomes instinct, until the noise outside no longer shakes the peace inside. Freedom doesn't come when they like you. Freedom comes when you stop needing them to. You stop explaining. You stop proving. You stop apologizing for being real. That's the beginning of self-respect. That's the start of inner strength. You don't need to escape the world to be free. You just need to escape their expectations. Stop adjusting yourself for people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared. Tomorrow, stop chasing approval from people who haven't even found themselves. That you're wasting your life performing for an audience that doesn't matter. Choose yourself. Choose peace over applause. Choose purpose over perception. When you stop caring what they think, your energy changes. You move lighter. You speak clearer. You stop explaining every step, because now every move is made for you, not for likes, not for validation, not for applause. You become dangerous, not because you're ruthless, but because you're free. You can't be controlled by gossip. You can't be broken by rejection. You can't be swayed by noise. That you've walked out of the prison. And the best part, you realize the door was never locked. You mastered awareness. Now it's time to rebuild strength. Because freedom means nothing if you don't have the courage to use it. Let's move forward. Chapter 2. You don't need their permission. You keep waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to start. You keep waiting for the green light. You keep waiting for approval, for validation, for a sign that says go. But here's the truth no one tells you. That permission is never coming. Not from your parents, not from your friends, not from society, because no one is supposed to give it to you. You were born with the authority to decide your own life, but you've been trained to outsource it to teachers, bosses, critics, and strangers who don't even know who they are. That you've been conditioned to think someone out there has to allow you to live fully. You don't need their permission. You need your own decision. That's the key. Look closely at how people live. They hesitate before every bold move, not because they're unsure of the path, but because they're afraid of what others will say about it. That's not caution. That's fear dressed as logic. You want to change careers. You wait for everyone to approve first. You want to speak your truth. You wait for someone else to go first. You want to start something new. You hesitate until the moment is gone. And every time you do that, you teach yourself a deadly lesson: that your instinct can't be trusted unless it's validated by someone else. That you're not waiting for clarity. You're waiting for permission. Let me tell you a secret. The most powerful people in the world, the ones you admire, they don't ask for permission. They act, and they deal with the noise later. They move, and the world adjusts around them. That's how change happens. That's how leadership is born. That's how freedom is built. Through action, not approval. When you stop seeking permission, you start creating momentum. When you stop waiting for a yes, your entire life accelerates. But the moment you ask, "Is this okay?" you hand your power away. And once you do that, You're no longer leading your life, that you're following someone else's comfort zone. Understand this. The people you're waiting on, they're not thinking about you, that they're thinking about themselves, their fears, their insecurities, their limits to SO. When you ask them for approval, you're asking for advice from someone trapped in their own doubts. And guess what? They'll project those doubts right back at you. They'll tell you to be realistic. They'll tell you to wait for the right time. They'll tell you it's too risky. But what they're really saying is, I didn't have the courage to do it, and I don't want you to remind me that I could have. You have to stop letting the fearful shape your fate. You have to stop letting the cautious dictate your confidence. You don't need their permission. You need your own conviction. Say it to yourself right now. I don't need their permission. Say it again. Say it until your voice stops shaking. Because every time you repeat it, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You take back the power you've been giving away your entire life. That it's not arrogance. It's ownership, that you're not rebelling against the world. You're realigning with yourself, that you've spent too long playing small so others could feel big. You've spent too long diluting your truth so others could stay comfortable. And for what? Approval that disappears the moment you stop performing. You can't build a strong life on borrowed validation. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop asking for permission, people start respecting you more. They can sense it. They can feel when someone moves with authority. Confidence doesn't come from being told you're good enough. Confidence comes from acting without needing to be told. You want respect? Stop asking for it. You want freedom? Stop waiting for it. You want progress? Stop explaining it. When you stop seeking permission, your energy shifts. You stop moving like a guest in your own life. You start moving like the host, that's powered, that's presence. That's what true independence feels like. You have to understand, no one else sees the vision the way you do. They weren't given your mind, your drive, your calling to SO. Stop expecting them to understand it. When people can't see what you see, they'll naturally question it. That's not your cue to slow down. It's your cue to keep going. You don't explain vision to those who lack perspective. You don't need to justify progress to those who've settled. You don't need to convert doubters into believers. Just keep building until they can't ignore it. That's how you win, not through permission, through proof. And proof doesn't come from words. It comes from relentless action. Every time you hesitate, remember this. They don't know what's best for you. They don't live with your dreams. They don't feel your hunger. They don't carry your calling to SO. Why are you giving them the authority to decide your next move? It's not about arrogance, that it's about alignment, that it's about trusting the compass inside you that everyone else keeps ignoring. If that's your greatest weapon, self-trust, and you build it. Every time you act without needing permission, here's a truth you must memorize. Permission is the enemy of progress. You can't ask for it and lead at the same time. You can't wait for it and grow at the same time. You can't depend on it and feel peace at the same time. You have to cut the cord. You have to decide that your opinion of yourself is the final one. Because that's what inner freedom sounds like. Quiet certainty. You don't argue for your limits. You don't beg for validation. You move and you let the results speak. You don't need anyone to understand you right now. You just need to keep going until they have no choice but to. Every creator, every visionary, every leader, they were misunderstood first. They were doubted first. They were told no first. And that no became fuel to SO. Use it. Use the rejection. Use the silence. Use every doubt as confirmation that you're walking your own path. If that's how you build unshakable confidence, through defiance, through action, through faith in your own vision. You don't need their permission to begin. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need their permission to win. You are the authority. You always have been. When you realize that, your life changes forever. You stop hesitating. You stop explaining. You stop performing. and you start living. Because real freedom isn't granted, it's claimed. You claimed awareness in Chapter 1. Now. You've reclaimed your authority in Chapter 2. Next. It's time to face the hardest truth of all. The truth about fear. Because once you stop needing permission, the only thing left holding you back is your own hesitation. Let's face it head on. Chapter 3. The war within. You think the world is your enemy. You think your boss, your partner, your critics are holding you back. But the real war, the only one that truly matters, is the one happening inside your own head. Every day, there's a battle between who you are and who you could be, between comfort and discipline, between excuses and execution, between fear and focus. That's the war within. And most people lose it before the day even begins. They lose it the moment they hit snooze. The moment they scroll instead of study. The moment they say, I'll do it tomorrow. That's how the war is lost, quietly, invisibly, one small surrender at a time. But here's the truth. The war never stops. It's fought every single morning. You don't get peace. You get stronger. That's the deal. You have a choice. You can either let your impulses dictate your destiny, or you can command your impulses like a soldier commands his post. Every time you resist distraction, you win a battle. Every time you choose effort over comfort, you reclaim ground inside your mind. That's the key. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about domination of self. You don't need to control the world. You only need to control you. Understand this. Your emotions want to rule you. Your laziness wants to seduce you. They whisper, rest. Wait. Not today. But those voices are not your allies. They're your enemies wearing friendly faces. And every time you obey them, you betray your own potential. You have to learn to fight back. Not with anger. Not with noise. With action. With silence. With consistency. You fight by showing up when you don't feel like it. You fight by keeping promises to yourself that nobody sees. You fight by saying, no, not this time. That's the war within. It's fought in silence. It's won in repetition. Every disciplined decision sharpens your mind like a blade. And every time you break your own word, that blade dulls. You don't rise by motivation. You rise by obedience to your higher standards. That's the secret nobody wants to hear. Motivation is noise. Discipline is order. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't loud. They're calm. Because they've already fought their wars inside. They've already buried their excuses. They've already bled for their boundaries. They've learned that peace doesn't come from avoiding the fight. It comes from winning it. You have a choice. Every morning, you wake up with a mind that wants to pull you back into weakness. You either command it, or it commands you. You either win the war, or you live as its prisoner. So, train your mind like a muscle. Discipline it like a soldier. Feed it truth, not comfort. And when the noise gets loud, remind yourself, I'm in control. That's the mindset of mental toughness. That's the armor of emotional control. That's how you win the war within. Because when you conquer yourself, no one else can conquer you. You mastered your reactions. You learned to fight your own mind. Now it's time to understand what gives your effort true power. Chapter 4. The discipline of focused distraction is the modern disease. Everyone is busy. Few are effective. They confuse motion with progress. They scroll. They check. They react. But they don't move forward. You must understand this. Focus is not a skill. It's a discipline. It's the deliberate act of saying no again and again and again. You have a choice. Every time you reach for your phone, every time you open a new tab, every time you let your thoughts wander, you're making a choice. A choice to divide your power or to direct it. And power divided is power lost. That's the key. Focus is how you weaponize your time. When your mind is scattered, your life is scattered. When your attention is sharp, your results are sharp. most people never achieve. Mastery because they chase everything. They want to build 10 things at once, and they finish none. They confuse being overwhelmed with being important. But the truth is brutal. Distraction is just fear wearing productivity's mask. Fear of boredom, fear of silence, fear of sitting alone with yourself long enough to realize what actually matters. That's why you must train your focus like a warrior sharpens his sword. You cut away everything that doesn't serve your mission. You build your environment for concentration. You remove noise. You remove chaos. You remove permission. You don't need permission to disconnect. You don't need to reply instantly. You don't need to be available for everyone. Because you're not building their life, you're building yours. Every minute you give to distraction is a minute stolen from your purpose. You think it's harmless. Just a quick check. Just 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes multiply. They fracture your mind. They drain your energy. And when it's time to perform, you're emptied. That's why discipline of focus is sacred. It's what separates amateurs from professionals. The amateur works until distracted. The professional works until complete. You want mental toughness? Master focus. You want emotional control? Master focus. Because the ability to stay locked in when the world is screaming for your attention, that's real power. You have to protect your focus like a fortress. That means setting rules, hard boundaries that no scrolling before work to no open tabs during deep work, no endless catching up on things that don't change your life. You don't need more hours. You need more presence in the ones you already have. You don't need more motivation. You need less distraction. That's the shift. That's the difference between someone who gets results and someone who just talks about them. When you control your focus, everything changes. You think clearer. You move faster. You feel stronger. The noise fades, and what remains is direction. You have a choice. You can be the person who constantly reacts to messages, to opinions, to distractions. Or you can be the person who executes, who moves in silence, who delivers results, who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. When your focus is disciplined, your energy compounds, your actions start to stack, your days start to align. And that's when the transformation begins, quietly, powerfully, unshakably. Focus isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. That it's not about one perfect day. It's about showing up, locked in, every day. That's the kind of focus that builds empires. That's the kind of focus that rewires your brain for success. You don't rise because you're lucky. You rise because you stay. You stay when it's boring. You stay when it's hard. You stay when everyone else quits. That's the discipline of focus. It's how you create peace in the chaos. It's how you turn energy into results. It's how you stop wasting your life on noise.so when the distractions call your name. Remember, they want your attention, not your growth. Your mission is bigger than your notifications. Stay focused. Stay locked in. Stay disciplined. That you've learned to control your reactions, that you've learned to focus your mind. Now it's time to build the foundation that sustains it all. Chapter 5. The Power of Routine. You will never rise higher than your habits. Read that again. You can dream, visualize, and plan, but your routine decides your reality. Discipline isn't built in grand moments, that it's built in repetition, that it's built in what you do when nobody's watching, that it's built in the small, boring, unglamorous things that compound over time. That's the truth most people avoid. Because routine feels restrictive. They say, I want freedom. But freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. Freedom comes from mastering what you must. You have a choice. You can either live by design or live by default. Your routine is that design. It's the invisible architecture of your life. When you wake up, when you work, when you rest, when you train, these are not random moments. They are your systems, and systems don't care about motivation. They run with or without your feelings. That's the key. When your emotions drop, your routine keeps you steady. When your motivation fades, your routine carries you. When the world gets loud, your routine anchors you. People chase motivation like addicts. They want to feel ready. They wait for the perfect morning, the perfect mindset, the perfect timing. But that's weakness disguised as self-care. Winners don't wait for readiness. They act on rhythm. Every strong person you admire lives by rhythm. Soldiers, athletes, CEOs, creators, they don't wonder what to do next. They already know. Their structure gives them freedom. Their habits give them peace. You must learn to design your day like a craftsman. Every block of time must have a purpose. Every routine must move you closer to your mission. Don't wake up and check your phone. Don't start your day reacting to other people's lives. Start your day with intention, movement, clarity, silence. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You need a consistent one. You don't need 20 habits. You need 3 that matter. Wake up, move, reflect. That's it. That's where control begins. Repetition is how you rewire your identity. Every time you follow through, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Each small act of discipline reinforces your strength. You are teaching your mind that you keep your promises. That's the foundation of self-respect. You can't love yourself if you don't trust yourself. And you can't trust yourself if you keep breaking your own rules. That's why routine matters, that it's not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about proving daily that your actions match your vision. People will call it boring. Let them. They don't understand that boredom is the birthplace of greatness. Every master has lived in the loop of repetition. Every champion has trained through monotony. They didn't escape the routine. They mastered it. You have to fall in love with the process. Fall in love with showing up. Fall in love with executing even when it doesn't feel rewarding, because one day, the compound effect of that discipline will look like luck. Your future doesn't need another burst of motivation. It needs a structure that holds when you don't feel like holding it. That's how consistency is born. That's how transformation happens. The routine is not your prison. It's your path to peace. It simplifies the chaos, reduces decision fatigue, and frees your mind to focus on what matters. You don't rise because you did one thing once. You rise because you did one thing repeatedly, day after day, year after year. You stayed. You showed up. You executed. That's the power of routine. It's quiet, invisible, and relentless. But it's what separates the talkers from the doers. It's what builds men and women who cannot be shaken. You don't need to change your life overnight. You just need to change what you do every morning. That's where the revolution begins. In the repetition that you've learned to control your focus. Now you've built the rhythm that protects it. But discipline goes deeper. It's not just what you do. It's how you think about yourself when no one's around. And that brings us to the next chapter. Chapter 6. The voice in your head. There's a voice that never stops talking. You know it. You hear it every day. The voice that doubts. The voice that criticizes. The voice that questions everything you do. That voice is not your enemy. It's your test. It's the battleground where discipline is either built or destroyed. Every time you decide to move forward, that voice will whisper, "You're not good enough." Every time you try to change, it will remind you of every failure you've ever had. Every time you start to rise, it will try to pull you back down into comfort. You have a choice. You can obey it, or you can rewire it. You can't silence the voice. You train it. You teach it what to say. You reprogram it through repetition and response. That's the key. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides which thoughts win. Discipline starts in the dialogue you have with yourself when no one's listening. When the voice says, "You can't," you answer, "Watch me." When it says, "This doesn't matter," you answer, "Everything matters." When it says, "You'll fail again," you say, I've failed before, and I'm still here. That's power, not fake positivity, not blind optimism. Real power, the kind that comes from refusing to let fear have the final word. Most people live their entire lives as prisoners of that voice. They believe it, they feed it, they let it run their emotions, decisions, and destiny. And then they wonder why they never change. You have to learn to separate the voice from your identity. That voice is old programming. Fear, insecurity, comparison, that it's not truth, that it's residue from every person who told you what you couldn't do. You don't need their permission. You don't need validation. You don't need the world to clap before you start. You need mastery over the mental noise that tries to break your rhythm. That's the real discipline. Mental discipline, that it's not just controlling your actions, that it's controlling your responses. When your mind starts to spiral, pause, breathe. Observe the thought like a cloud passing in the sky. Don't chase it. Don't fight it. Just say, that's not me anymore. Repetition rewires your brain. Every time you override the voice, you weaken it. Every time you take action in spite of fear, you build strength. Every time you keep your word to yourself, that voice loses power. And here's what happens. One day, the voice changes. It starts working for you, not against you. It starts saying, you've done harder things. It starts saying, keep going. It starts saying, you've built this discipline. Don't stop now. That's the shift. That's when you become dangerous. Because a person who commands their own mind cannot be manipulated. They don't need motivation. They are motivation. They don't chase peace. They create peace. But you only reach that state through repetition and awareness. You train your thoughts like you train your body, through consistent resistance. Stop saying, I can't help it. You can. You are not a victim of your emotions. You are their commander. The mind is a muscle, and just like any muscle, it grows stronger under pressure. The pressure of discipline, the pressure of showing up, the pressure of doing the hard thing again and again. You want to silence the negativity, starve it. Feed it no attention. Stop speaking your fears out loud. Start speaking your standards. Every morning, before the world can interrupt you, speak power into your day. I don't need to be liked. I need to be consistent. I don't need approval. I need purpose. I don't need it easy. I need it real. That's how you reprogram your inner voice. Not in one day, but every day. You don't fix your thoughts by wishing. You fix them by acting differently in spite of them. Because the voice in your head learns from what you do, not what you say. When you take disciplined action, your mind adapts. When you break promises to yourself, it loses respect for you. Keep your promises. Keep showing up. Keep doing what you said you would do, especially when that voice screams for comfort. That's how you earn internal silence. Not because the voice disappears, but because it finally submits to your leadership. That's mental freedom. That's the highest level of discipline that you've learned to build your routine. Now you've learned to master your mind. But there's another layer. The world outside you. The noise, the judgment, the pressure. Let's talk about how to walk through that world untouchable. Chapter 7. The Strength of Detachment. Most people live as emotional puppets, pulled by opinions, controlled by outcomes, chained to everything they can't control. You can't live like that and call yourself free. You can't build discipline if every feeling owns you. You can't lead yourself if the world decides how you feel every 5 minutes. That's why detachment is strength. Detachment isn't indifference, that it's control, that it's the art of caring deeply, but never being owned by what you care about. You have a choice. You can react to everything, or you can choose your responses. You can panic when life shifts, or you can adapt with calm precision. That's the key. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop obeying every emotion that shows up. Most people confuse passion with attachment. They think if they care less, they'll lose drive. Wrong. When you detach, you remove fear, and what's left is pure focus. You stop performing for results. You start working for mastery. You stop obsessing over what people think. You start doing what needs to be done. Because when you're attached to outcomes, you become desperate. Desperation is weakness that it clouds judgment. It drains energy that it turns discipline into chaos. When you detach, you take your power back. No emotion, no person, no failure can throw you off balance. You learn to observe, not absorb. Say it again. I observe. I don't absorb. That's the mantra of emotional warriors. You observe criticism. You don't absorb insecurity. You observe rejection. You don't absorb shame. You observe failure. You don't absorb defeat. That's how you build stability. Through distance, through separation between what happens and how you respond. Someone disrespects you, you don't react. You evaluate. Someone misunderstands you, you don't explain. You keep moving. Someone betrays you, you don't beg. You learn and rebuild stronger. Every reaction is a currency. Stop giving it away for free. Your energy is the most valuable resource you own. Protect it like it's sacred, because it is. Emotional control is not a talent, it's a discipline. You train it every time you choose silence over impulsive reaction, every time you breathe before responding, every time you keep your focus when chaos calls your name. When you detach, life slows down. You see things clearly. You stop taking everything personally. You stop needing closure from people who never gave you clarity in the first place. That's freedom. That's maturity. That's detachment. But make no mistake, detachment is not coldness. It's clarity. It's the ability to act with purpose instead of panic. Let me be clear. You can love deeply and still be detached. You can work relentlessly and still be detached. You can care passionately and still be untouchable. How? Because detachment shifts the motive. You no longer act for approval. You act from alignment. It's not about being heartless, it's about protecting your heart from the wrong things, it's not about ignoring emotions, it's about mastering them. You become untouchable not by building walls, but by building awareness. You start noticing what triggers you. You start asking why it triggers you. And slowly, you strip away every false attachment that makes you reactive. People who can't control you will call you cold. They'll say you've changed, they'll say you don't care. Good, because what they really mean is they can no longer manipulate you. That's the strength of detachment. You stop living on emotional autopilot. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing constant reassurance. You move from being reactive to being intentional. And that's when you rise above the noise. Detachment gives you perspective. It helps you see long term when everyone else is trapped in the moment. It helps you focus on process when everyone else is obsessed with praise. It helps you build legacy while others chase attention. That's discipline. That's mental toughness in motion. Repeat this to yourself. I move with purpose, not reaction. I act, I don't chase. I stay grounded, no matter what happens. Because no one can manipulate a person who's detached from approval, and no one can break someone who isn't addicted to being understood. And no one can stop a person who's not driven by fear or emotion, but by discipline. You want peace? Detach. You want focus? Detach. You want consistency? Detach. You don't need to stop caring. You just need to stop clinging. That's the subtle difference between chaos and control. That you're not emotionless, that you're emotionally disciplined, that you're not disconnected, that you're just no longer reactive. That's your power. And the more you protect it, the quieter your life becomes. The quieter your life becomes, the stronger you get. And the stronger you get, the less you need from the world. That you've learned to control your mind, that you've learned to detach from the noise. Now, it's time to confront the most dangerous illusion of all, the need to be liked. Chapter 8. Stop needing to be understood. Most people live their lives begging for understanding. They explain, justify, and defend themselves constantly. They want validation, approval, and agreement. That's weakness, that it's a trap. Because the world will never fully understand you, and it shouldn't. You have a choice. You can keep chasing understanding and dilute your power. Or you can stop explaining and start commanding your life. That's the key. You don't need to be understood. You need to be aligned with your purpose. You need to be consistent, disciplined, and focused. And if others get it, good. If they don't, even better. People will misinterpret you. They will judge you. They will criticize you. And that's okay. Their perception is not your business. Every explanation you give is energy stolen. Every justification you make is attention diverted from what truly matters. Stop feeding the people who don't care about your growth. Stop talking to those who never asked for your truth. Instead, invest that energy in your actions. Let your results speak louder than your words. Let your life become the statement, not your explanations. When you stop needing to be understood, you gain clarity. You stop reacting to criticism. You stop twisting yourself into shapes to appease others. You stop weakening your mental armor. You have a choice: reaction or discipline. Do you respond to every opinion? Or do you focus on your mission? Do you bend for approval? Or do you stand for excellence? Discipline always wins. The world will try to make you small. They will try to convince you that if you're misunderstood, you're failing. They will scream that being liked is essential. Ignore them. They are the noise, not the signal. The signal is your focus. The signal is your consistency. The signal is your integrity when no one is watching. You have to learn this lesson. The desire to be understood is optional. The need to perform for approval is optional. The only necessity is action, repetition, and persistence. Stop explaining your choices. Stop defending your methods. Stop justifying your path. What's right for you. What builds your mind, your body, your life. What leaves you stronger, even when others misinterpret you. The strongest people are never the most understood, but they're often the most misunderstood because they refuse to let opinions dictate their direction. They act on principles, not perception. Every day you act without needing validation, your power compounds. Every time you stop seeking approval, your freedom grows. Every time you move in silence, your discipline strengthens. Repeat this: I don't need approval. I don't need understanding. I need results. I act with purpose, not explanation. I measure my life by discipline, not perception. That's the mindset of the untouchable. That's the mindset of quiet strength. That's the mindset that separates winners from the rest, that you've controlled your mind, that you've detached from the noise. Now you've eliminated the need to be understood. Next, we tackle the final armor you need for life: untouchable. Chapter 9. The Battle Within. Winning against your weaker self. There is a voice inside you that whispers comfort, excuses, and reasons to stay the same. It tells you that you've done enough for today, that you deserve to rest, that starting tomorrow is just as good. That voice isn't evil, but it is weak, and it is the greatest enemy of your progress. The hardest battle in life is not against the world, it's against yourself. Every day, you stand between two versions of who you are: the one who wants to grow and the one who wants to stay comfortable. And whichever one you feed wins. Most people lose because they fight the wrong battles. They argue with others. They chase validation. They try to change circumstances. But the real fight is internal. The real enemy is your own resistance, the pull toward comfort, distraction, and procrastination. The strongest people in the world are not those who dominate others. They are the ones who dominate themselves. They command their emotions, control their impulses, and hold their focus when the world tries to break their attention. that self-discipline is not about punishment. It's about alignment. It's about staying loyal to your purpose, even when you don't feel like it. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. It's about leading yourself before you try to lead anyone else. That to win against your weaker self, you must first see it. Recognize its patterns, the times it appears, the excuses it makes, the comfort it offers. Don't hate it, understand it. Awareness is the first weapon. Then, replace its lies with truth. I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is a trap. I'm too tired. You're tired because you've trained your mind to stop when it gets hard. I don't feel like it. Your feelings don't control your future. Your actions do. Every time you push through, you weaken the old version of yourself. You starve it. You take back control. This is not a one-time victory. It's a lifelong war. Some days, you will win easily. Some days, the weaker self will win. That's okay. What matters is that you keep fighting, because every moment you choose discipline over comfort, every time you keep your word to yourself, you are building a version of you that cannot be shaken. And one day, you'll realize something powerful. The weaker self no longer speaks as loud, because you've become stronger than your excuses. Chapter 10. The Art of Stillness. Mastering calm under chaos. The world will always try to pull you into noise, opinions, drama, distractions, endless movement. Everyone wants your attention. But in a world addicted to reaction, stillness becomes a superpower. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what matters. It's the art of staying centered when everything around you spins out of control. It's the ability to hold your ground when chaos demands that you panic. Most people believe power looks loud, fast talk, big moves, constant action. But true power is quiet. It's controlled. It's the calm in the storm, not the storm itself. When you master stillness, nothing outside of you can control what's inside of you. Think of a warrior before battle, steady breath, silent eyes, no wasted motion. That's stillness. Or the surgeon in the middle of an operation, focused, precise, calm under pressure. That's stillness. Or the monk sitting in meditation while the world screams for attention. That's stillness. Stillness is not found by escaping the world. It's found by mastering yourself within it. When chaos hits, when plans fail, people disappoint you, or emotions rise, your first instinct will be to react. But that's exactly when you must pause. Breathe. Observe. Don't rush to fix. Don't rush to speak. Don't rush to feel certain. In that pause, wisdom grows. Stillness gives you space. Space to see clearly, to decide intentionally, to act with strength instead of impulse. You don't need to control everything around you. You just need to control your response, because chaos doesn't destroy people. Overreaction does. The problem is never the noise. The problem is letting the noise live inside you. Learn to build silence within your mind. Practice it daily. Start your mornings without your phone. Sit in silence for a few minutes. When emotions rise, delay your response by one deep breath. When confusion hits, do nothing until your mind settles. Stillness sharpens focus, and focus breeds power. The calmer you are, the more control you have. Eventually, you'll notice something profound. While others panic, you think clearly. While others rush, you wait with confidence. While others react, you respond. That is the art of stillness. To be calm not because life is easy, but because you've mastered yourself in the middle of the storm. Chapter 11. The Cost of Comfort. Why easy kills potential. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels right. Comfort feels deserved after the struggle. But comfort, if you stay there too long, will quietly destroy everything that once made you powerful. Comfort is the silent killer of greatness. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you to rest a little longer. It says, you've earned it. It convinces you that staying the same isn't failure, it's balance. But deep down, you know better. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you trade your potential for peace that doesn't last. Because comfort gives you a false sense of control. It feels like stability, but it's stagnation. It's where your edge dulls. It's where hunger dies. You were not built to stay comfortable. You were built to evolve. The body gets stronger through stress. The mind sharpens through challenge. The spirit expands through discomfort. Everything about human growth happens on the edge, not the couch. Comfort is the enemy because it demands nothing from you. It asks for no discipline, no focus, no courage. And when life stops asking those things from you, you start losing them. That's the truth no one wants to face. The easy path always costs more later. Comfort kills more dreams than failure ever did. Because failure at least teaches you something. Comfort teaches you nothing. It numbs you. It convinces you to stay still while life moves on without you. You start saying, someday. You start saying, maybe later. You start calling avoidance patience. That's how comfort wins. It makes you justify your own decay. But here's the key. You have a choice. You can use comfort as recovery, or you can use it as retirement. One makes you stronger. The other makes you weaker. Discomfort doesn't mean pain. It means progress. It's the signal that you're stepping into a space most people avoid. And that's where power lives. When you feel resistance, that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're growing. The moment things start feeling too easy, it's time to raise the standard. It's time to chase a bigger problem, a higher challenge, a harder truth. You can't become unshakable while living easy. You can't build strength in the absence of struggle. You can't discover your purpose if your only goal is to stay comfortable. Because life isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be meaningful. You weren't born to sit in the middle. You were born to lead yourself through difficulty, through fear, through doubt, until you become the kind of person who can't be broken by either success or failure. That's the reward of discomfort. It shows you who you are when there's nowhere to hide. So stop protecting your comfort zone like it's a treasure. It's not. It's a cage. You don't need a soft life. You need a strong one. You don't need easy. You need purpose. Because once you stop chasing comfort, you start chasing truth. Once you stop avoiding struggle, you start earning peace. Once you stop needing easy, you finally become unstoppable. That's the end of comfort. That's the start of power, and that's the final lesson. Freedom isn't about doing what feels good. Freedom is about becoming who you were meant to be, no matter how hard it gets. Final closing script. 1-minute audiobook outro. You made it. You listened. You faced the truth. Now it's time to live it. This entire audiobook wasn't about motivation. It was about transformation, about rewiring the way you see yourself, your emotions, and your power. That you've learned that when you live for approval, you lose control. That you've learned that silence is strength, that discipline beats emotion, that consistency builds peace, that comfort is the enemy. Now the real work begins. When the headphones come off and life starts testing you again. When people doubt you, stay calm. When emotions rise, stay centered. When nothing seems to be working, stay consistent, because that's how you win. Not by reacting, not by pleasing, but by mastering yourself. Remember this. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't even need their understanding. You only need your own commitment. Commitment to discipline. Commitment to silence. Commitment to becoming untouchable. The world doesn't respect noise. It respects results. So stop talking. Start doing. And let your calmness become your dominance. Because in the end, the real power is not caring what they think and moving forward anyway.